Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's Sally Arnold here from Creating on Cause. And I want to firstly welcome you to this webinar on recreating your career. And I just noticed there's a few people here on the webinar. I just can't pull up your names. So if you could tell me, first of all, if you could put into the chat box, which is up the top, it's actually on the right-hand side. If you can just type into the chat box your name and what you'd like to get out of this webinar, that would be absolutely fantastic. So if you would like to do that, that would be absolutely wonderful. So we can then start sort of connecting and I can find out exactly what it is that you want to get out of this webinar. That would be fabulous. So if you can just type into that chat box, the chat box, if you can't find it, the chat box it's right at the top of your screen and it's got chat on it. And if you type into that, and then I can sort of sense, what it is that you want. And if you could let me know if you can hear me and you can see my screen, that would be fabulous too. Okay, just waiting for an answer here. I'm not sure who's actually on this call and whether you can actually hear me. So if you could just type into the chat box, if you can hear me, that's really, really important, or else I'll just be talking to myself. Okay, Annette, I can see. Great. Annette, how are you? And Annette, can you just, or Nicole too, could you just let me know if you can hear me? That's really important. I'm just waiting to hear because before I move ahead, I'm not sure if you actually can hear me. Nicole or Annette, if you can just type into the chat box to write the message there. If you can hear me, I'll just write, can you hear me? Okay. Yes. Oh, Annette, fantastic. Oh, you made my day. Oh, that's so good. Because until I get that message, I quite often think that I might be speaking to myself. So, and that's at least I know now everyone else can hear me. So that's fabulous. Okay, so we can start absolutely properly. And as I said, I want to welcome you all to this webinar, a webinar on recreating your career in the smartest and most effective way. So the overview for today is that we're going to go through the 3 essential stages of really helping you to move your career ahead. The gold of your story, how to repurpose your career, and your goals and your action plan. And if someone could also let me know if you can see my screen and you can see everything on my screen, that would be fabulous as well. I imagine if you can hear me, you can see my screen, but if you could as well, let me know. Because running webinars, unless someone says yes or no, it's very hard to know what's happening. So, okay, so the goal of your story, repurposing your career and your goals and your action plan. So I'd just like to know at this stage why you're on the webinar, what it is that you want to get out of the webinar, and, just in, say, one sentence, where are you now? Are you stuck in your career? And I imagine, I'm not sure why you're on the webinar, perhaps you are stuck in your career. So what do you want to get out of the webinar? What do you want to walk away with at the end of the hour? I'd really love to hear, if you wouldn't mind just typing into the chat box, what do you want to get out of this webinar? And I'll just wait for a second, just find out what everyone wants to get out of the webinar. So while I'm waiting for that, I'm just curious about where are you heading at the moment? Where are you heading in your career? What's happened to your career? Do you feel your career's not going anywhere? Perhaps you're bored, you're not inspired with your career. Do you feel that your ladder's against the wrong wall? And who can help you? Because it can be really, really, really lonely. So the promise I'm going to give you in this webinar is to give your career path a new sense of direction. You know, it's a bit like sort of redecorating a room. I'm going to help you to feel inspired and alive and valued again. And I want to help you to take courage in your hand and to leverage all the parts of your careers in ways that work. And I believe I'm really an expert at doing this because I've had to turn my career around so many times, starting out, and you'll get this as a young musician many years ago in Adelaide. That Adelaide Conservatorium, a promising young musician, and guess what? After 2 years, went into a career in Sydney, then globally, and then after 6 years, I had to give it up because of hearing problems. So I had to find new ways to be able to get back in touch with my passion, with my purpose. And it was really challenging because in those days, I didn't have anyone that I could talk to. I just wish there was a Sally, me now, in those days, because it was actually really a very lonely place to be in. And eventually I got into the food industry because I love cooking, I love food, but I missed the performing arts. So I went back into the arts area, running the Australian Ballet business, and now doing what I do. But it's very important to have great help, great advice, people that can be there for you and also work with you. So important. So Annette, thank you. You seem to be the only person at the moment that's communicating, but that's great. We'll have a one-on-one session now. So you want advice to plan a new path, and yeah, I do remember that you're looking at sort of new ways to be able to move ahead. So hopefully in this webinar we can sort of move through that. So okay, so this road, is this a familiar road? As I said before, is this a road that you've been on many times, and you keep going along in the same direction? Where are the side roads? Where are the roads that give you energy, that make you feel alive? And also, just start to think too, what have you forgotten? What are the parts of your life or your career where you've really excelled and you've put them to one side? We all do this, past achievements. What have you forgotten about? Well, in this webinar, I'm going to help you remember those, because they're the parts that you can put together in a new way to help you move your career ahead. And also I want to ask you the question, why are you stuck? What's been keeping you stuck? Has it been easier to stay stuck? To stay in the same place? And are you responsible for that? 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And not daring to get into a world that excites. And you're trying to do this on your own too, because many people try and they'll say to me, before they come to coaching, I tried to do this on my own, but it just didn't work. It's almost like you need someone to work alongside you. So what we're going to do in the webinar is to get you thinking creatively. Creative thinking is the way to help you open up to new life, to a new world. And I was speaking at an event yesterday, and I was talking on creativity in leadership, and a lot of people were saying, I haven't got a creative bone in my body. And that's so untrue. We all have a creative bone or bones in our body. It's just about knowing how to bring the creative insight and joy and passion and purpose alive. So I promise in this webinar to be able to help you to reconnect with that passionate and that purposeful part of yourself. So, so, so important. So for a moment, what I'd like you to do is just to think about, what is it, if it was a perfect world, would you do in your career or your life? And just type that into the chat box. What would you like to do if it was a perfect world? And I want to start you thinking in a way that really helps you move out of the square, out of, sort of the stuck square. And when I say this, I sort of mean that even if you come up with something that you go, well, my gosh, this is almost impossible. It is possible. We can unpack parts of it. It's not like, even if you say, look, I want to be an astronaut and fly to the moon. Yes, that's great, but it's also about unpacking what that passion in you is. Why do you want to do something that's quite different, that stands out? And then it's unpacking it and unpacking it into a place and into a career that absolutely is achievable for you. So, Annette, seeing you're the one person that's actually typing into the chat box, if it was a perfect world, what would you want to do to plan, to move into a new career? What would you do? Have you got any ideas at all? I'd love to just hear from you, because as I said, you're the one person that's quite active on this webinar at the moment. So what is it? Just be a bit silly. What is it that you would like? What is it that you'd love to do, even though it may not be the career that you would you'd envision you'd do, but at least it's a really good starting point. So just be brave and bold, and just type into the chat box, what could it be, or what would it be? That would be fabulous if you do that. I'm waiting. Leadership, great. Fantastic. Thanks, Annette. You're my saving grace here, because everyone else is obviously, I don't know what they're doing, but that's okay. Leadership, such a core, and that's absolutely achievable, because I do know a little bit about your background. And as I said yesterday, I was talking to a group about leadership and a creative way of looking at leadership and or facilitation. Fantastic. And I know I'm just going to sort of just quickly talk to you about this, because this is very important, and you might like to note this down, and then at the end I can suggest some ways forward. It's important to come from a voice of authority, and to really know that voice of authority. These are the points I talked about yesterday, and to be creative, and then also to put that together with a really strong mindset and an action plan. So I'll bring that into, now I'm aware of what you want to do. I'll start to bring that into the webinar today. And anyone else who wants to type in, because I don't know what you guys want, I can also sort of make it a little bit more personal as well. So, okay, so let's start with the first part, the gold within you. So I want you for a moment to start to think about your career in a really fanciful way. And Annette, I'm going to use you because you've been the one, as I said, the one person who's typed into the chat box what you want to do. So think about, the possibilities and the potential of your career now, or your career in the past, and how you can use that in a way to reinvent and reinvigorate leadership or facilitation. We all have, you have that sitting within you. It's just about knowing how to put the bits together into a way that absolutely works and can start working with you. So just for a moment, imagine with your career, and I'm going to say this to everyone, you're in a career and you're on this webinar because I imagine you're stuck, your career's not going anywhere. So imagine that you have to, by the end of this week, update your story. Someone's knocked on your door, sent you an email, whatever, and said that they would love you to appear in a movie in Hollywood. And you've got to update your story, and you've got to make your story really stand out. Imagine what you would do, how you would suddenly come to life. You would revisit the boring story you've got at the moment of being stuck and bored, and you would start to turn that story around. So think about this for a moment. I know when I worked at the Australian Ballet, we always used to, have the good old Sleeping Beauties and Swan Lakes that would be performed, say, once a year. You might have a Swan Lake one year, a Sleeping Beauty, etc., the other year. But the most important thing was that when we actually performed and put those ballets on, that they were revivals, or that they were up-to-date versions of those ballets. Because as much as they are very traditional ballets, they are ballets, as we call it in the theatrical world, you get bums on seats. We had to make sure that they were current, that they were ballets that people would go, wow, well, look at the costumes, look at the sets. They are amazing. They are absolutely fabulous. They are fantastic. So think about your career in that way. You know, you'll have the guts, you know, you'll have your training, your qualifications, etc., etc. It's no different than a Sleeping Beauty or a Swan Lake. The choreography, the music doesn't change. It does not change. It's no different than the parts of your career, your background, your knowledge, your university degrees, your diplomas. They don't change. They form the basis of your career that's moving forward. That is the authenticity. That is the part of yourself that you can use to leverage into a new career. Just think of it like a Swan Lake or a Sleeping Beauty, except with what I'm going to help you with today, we're going to put new sets, we're going to put new costumes into the production. So we're going to make it stand out. And I can remember quite a few years ago when Graham Murphy from Sydney, he was running Sydney Dance Company, or I think he just finished running Sydney Dance Company then. And he put together a new Swan Lake, and it was so totally different. It was, my gosh, it was actually set in a psychiatric hospital, which, yeah, is very, very different. But hey, it's certainly got people along to the production. So think about, you know, okay, what is it in your career? What's the goal? The goal in your career at the moment is your background, your training, and I'm sure that, you know, you just need to bite into that donut that's there and imagine what would come oozing out. Imagine your potential, your past achievement, and how to vision your future desires. So what I'm going to do now is to help you. I'm going to ask you a question, another question. And this is such an important one. What did you want to do as a child and why? This is really important. What did you want to do when you were a child? You know how children have crazy ideas that I remember with my niece who's now in London, and Livy, oh gosh, how old's Livy? She's 23 and she works in marketing. And when she was a young child growing up in New Zealand, she spent her early years in New Zealand. She just wanted to be a princess. That was basically what she wanted to do. She wanted to be a princess, and I think she wanted to be a nurse. And I look at Livy now, who's this sexy, sultry 23-year-old with long blonde hair, and I laugh back to what she kept telling me she wanted to be. So so if you'd like to type into Annette to be a medical doctor, okay, cool. And so I think, Annette, you work in an area of research, if I remember correctly, and I wasn't sure if it was in the medical area as well. So fantastic. And it's amazing because I think children, when they're young, yes, you know how we play doctors and nurses and did all that stuff. So it was a pretty extraordinary experience. And look at where you are now. You like the subject. What do you say? You like the subject and wanted to help people. Annette, can you tell me what do you do now? What have you been doing? I can remember, I think you're at the university in research, I think, because I do know you. I don't know anyone else on the call, but Annette, I do remember you. I think it was it research or something like that? Oh, pharmaceutical. Okay, cool. That makes sense. At least I got the research bit right. Okay, you worked in pharmaceutical research. So okay, you wanted to be a medical doctor. So I'd like you all to go into that part of yourself that when you were a child, anything was possible. As we get older, we stop ourselves from moving ahead. We stop ourselves from actually connecting with that fun, with that out there part of ourselves. We put restrictions on ourselves. We go, oh no, I can't do this. Why would I do that? If I had to do this, I might be stupid. So just start to think about bringing that childlike part back within yourself. And you know, the reason why is that once we get back in touch with a child, we open up to more opportunities. We open up to so much more. We become that child again, the child that says that anything is absolutely possible. It's only as we move into school years and as to adulthood that we get all those sort of parts taken out of us. We've got to be sensible. We've got to be a bit smart. And, you know, I remember when I decided I wanted to become a musician, I think it was about the age of 12, and that was all I wanted to do. That's my whole life. And it was in a little town in New Zealand, Christchurch. And in those days, I mean, girls, all they were told that they could do was to be a nurse, a teacher, or And the words then was a secretary, a PA or something like that. And I didn't want to be any of them. And I still remember sort of people saying to me and my parents' friends, oh, but, that's really, oh no, do you think you could do that? It's a really hard career. But there was something that sat within me that just said, I'm going to do this. And I did. I did. I didn't have a long career due to hearing problems, but I was a musician and I'm really grateful for that. So let's keep moving on. So keep that childlike part within you as we move into the next section. I'd like you to start to think, as you start to rearrange your thinking about the career, say in the next few months that you're going to start entering again. What are your past achievements? What are the parts of yourself that you've sort of forgotten about? Because I know when clients get stuck or they come to me, the first thing that we do is this vision mapping. And what it is doing, it's recalling your past achievements, and it helps to vision future desires. And the reason that I suggest this at this stage is that when people go, oh my gosh, I forgot that I won this award, I won that award, I did this and I did that. So I'd like you to start, everyone on this call today, whether you type it into the chat box, doesn't matter. But Annette, seeing that you're typing, that would be fabulous. What are the awards that you've won that you've sort of forgotten about? Because these give you a strong sense of self when you've got to move out of stuckness, when you move your career ahead. Doesn't matter what they are. Awards that are in your career, obviously, your past career or the career that you're in now for everyone else on this call. What have you won? What is it that's made you feel very, very proud of what you've done? Because I'm sure everyone on this call today has won some sort of award. So I'd love you just to type into the chat box, what sort of awards? What sort of awards have you won? Whether it's articles that you've written, whether it's articles that you've written that people have said, wow, that is an extraordinary article. I really like that article. Start to just think and write them down for yourself as well. What are the credits that you've had? What are the parts of your career that I'm getting tongue-tied, that you're wanting to change that you've forgotten about? Because those parts of your career are really important ones that we can start to help, and I can help you leverage them into new directions. Okay, Annette here says, different in Sweden. Oh, you don't have many awards there? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you don't have. Thank you for that. That's something that's something I've learned. I wasn't aware that in Sweden that there weren't many awards. Okay, cool. That's fine. So Annette, especially for you, just think about times in your career that you felt very proud. You felt very proud of what you'd done. I think that's the most important thing. Just start to think of what is it that you've done in your career over the past whatever years that you've felt very proud of, and I'd like you just write them down for yourself. That's absolutely fine. So to help you start to reimagine and find the gold in your story, I want you to start to think about your story in the past with those achievements or those awards, or as in Annette's case, whatever it was that you felt very proud of. And imagine that, as I said, Hollywood's knocked on your door, sent you an email, and they're going to put a story together on your life. They're going to put a story together on your life in your past career, or the career that you're still in that you want to move out of, and in the career that you're going to be moving into, the part of yourself that's going to reinvent this next stage of your career. So I'd like you to be a bit mad, a bit crazy, and just think about, what would your story be? What would you be when you're walking along the red carpet to watch your movie? Where would you be in this story? And at this stage, as I said, even if you don't know what you want to do, to get the creative juices flowing, it's about starting to think outside of the square. And in Annette's case, I'm going to use you as an example, Annette. Start to think of yourself in leadership. Start to think of, even if you don't know exactly what you're doing in leadership, or in facilitation. Start to think of your story as combining something that's really important in the area of leadership. Standing in front or speaking in front of a really smart, impressive group of people, a group of people that relate to you. And for everyone else on the call, just start to think about, sort of, there you are in your career, you're moving ahead, and you're around a group of people that are really supportive. They're absolutely loving what you're doing. Just let your creative juices absolutely run wild. And imagine, just for a few moments, that you're walking along that red carpet. You're going to see the story of your life. The story of your life is going to have your past. It's going to have your past achievements. Whatever it was that you were proud of, whether it's awards, whether it's past recognition, whatever it is, it's going to have your past achievements. And then it's going to have your future sitting there. So just start to become a bit more creative. So now we move into the next section. Now you've walked along that red carpet. You're moving into your story. Your story is going to be on the big screen. So what's stopping you now? This is one of the most important questions. What's been stopping you? People come to me with all sorts of excuses. All sorts of excuses. I hear them all the time. Oh, look, I'll wait till my children are older, or I'll wait till, I actually know what I want to do. Well, most people don't know what they want to do until they start coaching. So just start to think, what is stopping you? What is stopping you putting that foot forward? It's a bit like, I remember many years ago, I did one of those, what would you call it? Adventure courses or weeks. And you go and you do sort of, you climb up up trees, and then you fall off trees. I mean, we were sort of roped in, etc., and you just let yourself go. And we did abseiling, and I think abseiling is one of the most important metaphors for this story about recreating your career. What's stopping you take that first step if you're abseiling off that cliff? That's the hardest bit. That's absolutely, I remember for myself, it's about letting go. It was about letting go. And once you let go, you've got to keep going down, because you can't go back up again because the rope's letting you down. Annette, fear of failure. Yeah, thank you. Do you know, Annette, if I got $1 for every client that talks about fear of failure, and every client does, I can just say without doubt, every client talks to me about they are so challenged about recreating their career or moving their career ahead, and it's about failure. I had a client actually on, when was it? On Monday night, and she is, I have to laugh, and she knows I laugh like this, and I'm not laughing at her, but I just look at her achievements. She's an extraordinary young woman. She's an award-winning hairdresser. I think she won something like, she said to me, Hairdresser of the Year award for Australasia. So it's not just Australia, it's Asia as well. So that's a pretty extraordinary award to win. And she's come to me for coaching because her business is not going. It's stopped, and it's stayed fairly stagnant. And she won this award, I think, only about 2 years ago. So it's recent. And we were working through, all the barriers that were stopping her from moving ahead. And she looked at me and she said, I'm just really afraid of failing. And I looked at her and I said, but you haven't failed. I said, look at the awards that you have won. And I said, my gosh. And I told her the Richard Branson story about, sort of that basically when he and venture capitalists want to give money to a project, and entrepreneurs come along and they bid for it, or they go into an interview process, and the first question they ask is, how many times have you failed? And Richard Branson says, unless someone has failed twice, they won't even talk further, because he believes that when someone has failed and got back up again, failed, got back up again, and then come to talk to them about funding, they're really gutsy. They've got potential. They know what it's like to go through the shit that happens when you fail and to get themselves up again. So Annette, in answer to your question, and I imagine that everyone else has probably could probably type that in as well. Well, fear of failure. It sits with everyone. It sits with everyone. And all I'm going to say to you at this stage and is that it's common, and you have to find ways to move yourself out. I can help you at the end, and I'll talk to you about how I can help you with that one, because it's as I said to my client on Monday, I said to her, my gosh, I think I'll tell you what it was about. It was something about around putting on another apprentice. And I said to her, you're working so hard that you've got to put on another apprentice. This is ridiculous. You've got to be out there creating hairstyles and whatever, and putting yourself out there. And she said, oh, but I'm really nervous about putting on another apprentice, because the one before the one we've got now, I feel I failed because she didn't make it as a hairdresser. And I said, wait a minute. I said, that's about her. I said, that's not about you. I said, you would have given her the best training. I said, you can't be responsible for her moving herself ahead. And it's no different with me as a business coach. I mean, hey, I give everyone the opportunity and the tools and the structure and the framework to be able to move ahead. And if their mindset's not in the right place, there's absolutely nothing I can do. And thank God here, or whatever, Buddha or whatever, I've never had that experience. But because people eventually do change their mindset. It's a mindset thing too. It's totally a mindset thing. So just think about that for a moment. And it's really, and everyone else I imagine everyone else on the call has got exactly the same challenge. So, okay. So thank you, Annette, for being open about that. And this would connect in. So what are your fears and frustrations? And I imagine for quite a few of you, fears and frustrations is having to start and move into an area you don't really know a lot about. And, when you get into that fear, start to think, if you've let that part of yourself stop you now, how's that stopped you in the past? How's that fear, and the fear of failure, or the fear of not achieving, or the fear of not moving ahead, how's that stopped you in your life, in both your personal and your professional life, from moving ahead? Just start to think about why. Why have you done this? Is this old conditioning? Is this, how can I put it? Are these parts of yourself that have gone, can't do it. This is really, really hard. So before I move into the next section, I just want to recap, and I want to tell you all a story here it's really important about sort of finding the gold within. A client of mine, and she was a client a couple of years ago, she came to me because her husband actually had won a coaching session with me at an event. So Nicole took this. She decided she'd take this prize instead of her husband. So I still remember her sitting in front of me, and she looked at me and she said, Sally, I'm absolutely nervous. I've got no idea why I'm even here. I don't, and she was honest, which I loved. I don't know why I want to here, but my husband won this coaching certificate, and he said I was the one that had to come and sit in front of you. And I said, well, that firstly, you've got guts and courage to do that. Good on you. And she said, look, we've just bought into, it was a network marketing business I think it was, it's anti-aging skincare. And I went, wow. I said, look, there's so many of us, around baby boomers, etc. Anti-aging, I imagine, is going to be a really good business to get into. And Nicole said to me, she said, Sally, I've never sold anything. I hate talking to people. I just get so nervous. I freeze and I stall, and it's just terrible. So long story short, from that time, we worked together probably over a year, did the 12 months coaching, and the difference in Nicole in moving through the stuckness, the fears, exactly the fear of failure, the fear of not being able to speak to people, the fear of having to ask people if they would like to buy products, the fear of putting a team together. She had so many fears and frustrations. But you know what I knew? At her core, and this is about why I was asking about earlier about achievements, she'd been an elite triathlete. She'd represented Australia as a triathlete. And I said to her, Nicole, if you can do that, or you could do that, I know she's still a very fit woman. I said, you can do anything. I said, if you can represent Australia in an Olympic distance triathlon, you've got the guts, you've got the courage, you've got the mindset to be able to turn your life and to turn this business around. And she did. And I'm so proud of her because I think it was a year ago, she and her husband were named Australia. I think it was Australia's top distributor. And I'll tell you, that networking world, I've found out, is a really tough world. It's a world that all I'm going to say on this webinar is, my gosh, the people who get to the top are few and far between. It's very, very hard work. And you can do well. Once you get to the top, you do very well. So, so that's just a story about fear and frustration. And it's so important that you don't get stuck in that place of, oh, if. And so in just recapping now, it's looking about, it's this last section, the goal of your story is about biting into that donut, finding what's sitting in the middle, finding your wants, your aspirations, your desires, and putting them together so that you've got an exciting story for the next stage of your life. Doesn't matter if it's not exactly true, but it's about the energy. It's about you now starting to see the possibility and the potential to take your career so much further forward. So let's now look at repurposing your career. How do you do that? How do you redecorate? It's a bit like, as I said, the Swan Lake thing. You know, put new costumes and sets and scenery, and you've got a new Swan Lake. You still got the same music, you still got the same choreography, but how do you repurpose your career? So I want to firstly ask you again, why have you stayed stuck? Why have you kept up this old story? So what is it in you? Because it's very, very important for you for a moment to start to think, why have you stayed in this stuck place? Is it the safety of just knowing something that's familiar? Is it financial? And everyone, I can tell you, everyone uses the financial thing, but unless you put yourself out there, you're not going to move ahead. So if you'd like to type into the chat box, why have you stayed in that stuck place? Is it the sense of failure if you go into another career? Is it a sense of something familiar, that it's better to be in a familiar place? Is it better to be amongst a group of people that you know well, that you might be bored with them, but you still know them well? It's a bit like when I was speaking at this event yesterday, I was talking to people about why they stayed stuck and why they didn't repurpose their career. And I said, well, do you sort of, I guess you drive to work the same way every day? And they went, yes. And I said, what would it be like if you just went a slightly different way? What would you discover? You still go to work, but what would you discover if you went to work a different way? And, you know, I can remember many years ago, and I used the story when I went to the South Melbourne market here in Melbourne, of course, and one of the roads was blocked off, and I went, oh, bummer. And I had to go a different route. And would you believe it? I found a part of South Melbourne that was so beautiful that I just hadn't even considered it. I thought, my gosh, that is extraordinary. And I thought, oh, maybe in the future I could live there. I could live in that area. That is amazing. So just start to think about what has stopped you. And Annette, you've got lack of self-confidence. Look, this is I actually spoke about this yesterday too, self-confidence, self-worth and self-belief. I just want to say to you and to everyone else on this call that would sit with most people. And I told the story of Hillary Clinton actually a few years ago when she was here in Melbourne. And I think it was a group of girls from Melbourne University that were interviewing her. And one of the questions was, do you suffer from lack of self-confidence, self-belief, self-worth? And Hillary she rolled her head back and she laughed and she said, every day. She said, every day I suffer from a lack of self-belief and self-worth. But she said, I now know psychologically how to deal with it. And this is what I say to all my clients. What I do is I give you tools to help you to be able to turn around that so-called lack of self-confidence. It's with everyone. And you know what you have. Oh, okay, I get you in it. Yeah. When you're in the same situation, yes, you know exactly what you've got. And I can tell you, I can agree with that at times, because being an entrepreneur, at times it can be really challenging, because I walk on the edge all the time, but actually I'm getting much better. I love it actually now. I love walking on the edge. I've got used to it, and it's always okay. So, but thank you for putting lack of self-confidence down, because if Hillary Clinton suffers from it, I would say there's a pretty good chance that most people in the world do. But as Hillary said in a very smart way, she said, I do know how to deal with it psychologically. I've had help to deal with it. So just start to think about, if you could turn around that lack of self-belief and self-worth. We call it in my background with psychology and coaching, we call it reframing. It's about basically reframing where you're at. So now imagine for a moment that you could move out of that place of lack of self-belief and self-worth. You've got tools and you've got a way to be able to move forward. And you could start to breathe new life into your world, into the career that you're going to be moving into. How would you do this? How would you feel? And that's my promise on this webinar, to really challenge you, or to just sort of invite you to start to look at, how could you grow? I love this picture. I was looking at it the other day and I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is such an extraordinary piece of living greenery of wall art. I mean, I don't even know where it is. I must admit, I didn't sort of quite find that out, but it's quite extraordinary. So you imagine if you were that wall. So let's just think about this for a moment, that you're that wall without that greenery on it. So you're doing the same old, bit boring, bit blank, but the wall supports the rest of the building, keeps it up, and that's fine. But it's a white wall, and white walls are fine. But then you decide that you want to make this wall really appealing and come alive. You could put paintings on the wall, or you could paint that wall another color, or you could do what they've done here. This is no different to breathing new life into your career, into your life. So what is it? If you want to think of your career or your life now as being a bit like a blank canvas. Blank canvas, there's so much potential with a blank canvas. You don't have to be a Picasso, but you can put anything on a blank canvas. You can paint, you can put crayon, you can put pencil. You can go outside, and some of my clients go outside and they make little collages with sticks and stones and things like that. You can do anything. So just begin to think about your life now as being a blank canvas, a canvas that has enormous potential because you have it. You've got the training, you've got the background, everyone on this call. So, so Suzanne, we've got some connection again. There's so many other people on the call and they're not connecting. Suzanne, I know you're a great connector, so great to have you on the call, and it's really good to see you're on it, because Annette so far has been the voice of about a dozen people, so I don't know why everyone else is keeping very quiet. So thank you for coming on. Fantastic. So Suzanne, you know about breathing new life into your business and into your career. It's really, really important. I want to, you can tell me how Madam Peg is going at this stage. So imagine your life, it's a canvas. We have potential. We can keep that canvas blank and boring, or we can make it the most extraordinary canvas that you want it to be. So what I want you to think about now is, how can you update? How can you update yourself, your career? You can leverage all your training and your skills with new thinking. How can you absolutely do this? And a great exercise that I have, and I'm going to briefly take you through it now, is to imagine your world now through 3D glasses. Imagine your world for a second with those glasses on, and what are you missing? What have you been missing when you haven't had the glasses on? What is it that you haven't seen in your world? What have you been doing almost by rote, back and forward and back and forward and back and forward every day? You put the glasses on, and it's like when you go to a movie, before the movie starts, a 3D movie and you don't have the glasses on and it comes on, and then suddenly you put the glasses on and you go, oh my gosh, even the opening credits, they come alive, they come out towards you. You can almost touch them, you can feel them. So start to think of the parts of your life that you haven't seen without those glasses on. Think of putting on those 3D glasses now. And when I go to New York really regularly, and when I go to New York, I go to one of the galleries I love going to is the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and they have this great sort of like three-dimensional postcard, and it's fantastic. And I want to I want you to think about your life as being like this. And the three-dimensional postcard shows the outside of the museum, and then when you start to move it, it changes, it becomes three-dimensional, and you can see all the galleries inside. It's absolutely fantastic. So start to think about your life and your career. What is it that's sitting inside of yourself? If you work in research, if you work in administration, if you work in, I've got some arts people on this call, if you work in the arts world, you can leverage it. You can leverage your skills and your talents in so many different ways. You can just feed off those. So if you had to go within, how could you pull all those parts out? And we're going to talk about this at the end, because I've got an offer that can help you to pull those parts out together, which is fantastic. So just think for a moment, what would you be doing? Look at this group of people. I think I love this slide. When I got it, I looked at it and I thought, my gosh, this is a really inspiring slide. There's something about the people that are on this slide. They're doing interesting things. They're doing things that are out of the normal. So I want you to start thinking about how you can update your thinking, move out of stuckness, move out of the lack of self-belief and self-worth, and start updating your energy for a start, and then looking at the ways that you can breathe new life. You can breathe new life into that wall. So as I said, it comes from you thinking. It's absolutely about your mindset. Once you start to understand your mindset, you have the potential to be able to move your career so much further ahead. And for a moment, I just want to stay with that word mindset. Just going to have a glass of water. So just imagine that you're going to start thinking in a very different way. You've been familiar with whatever the career or the work that you've been doing now. And to be honest, it's been boring. You've stayed stuck. It's a bit like driving to work the same way. And you've done this because your mind has made you safe. And then when you start to think outside of the square, the thought patterns that come up, we call them in psychology tape loops. They go round and round. Why do you think you're doing this? Are you stupid? Stay somewhere that's safe but boring. And quite often when we actually hear these tape loops, they're tape loops that have been with us for most of our life. And I'm sure with everyone on this call, you would probably agree with me. They're things that have stopped us from moving ahead, even at school. Oh, do you think you're stupid? Why are you doing that? That's different. Just do what we're all doing. Oh no, don't do that. You might fall over, or, you're not safe. This is about really taking your own life in your hands now. You're an adult. You've got a career. You've had a career, or you're in a career that's been working not too badly. So, oh, great. Suzanne says, surround yourself with positive people. So essential. And the other thing I want to add to this as well, to everyone else, is that it's important to surround yourself with positive people, but really authentic positive people, and to also surround yourself with people that are at a much higher level than yourself. When you're with people at a much higher level than yourself, you get inspired. You can see what's possible, but they have to be people that you can really connect with. I want to give you an example. I was in Sydney last week, and my coach, I have a coach too. Most people are quite amazed when I say that, but it's so important for me to have coaching and to stay ahead of, and be ahead and learn all the new stuff. And I think there are about 60 of us. So I'm one of the older ones, but it was the most fabulous 2 days in Manly. And the reason that I want to bring it up is that the thought patterns were, for me, were quite challenging at times, because most of the people are younger and they're into the most everything that they do is online. And I mean, I'm pretty good online, but I'm not an IT nerd, and I don't really quite understand how to actually do specific things. So I can do this webinar, et cetera, et cetera. But we were asked to do something like, and this is a really good example of mindset, and this was mine. We were asked to put out what my coach called a hot potato. It was a very quick email to ask a question and to get a response. So we had to be very specific, just one sentence, and mine was, and the title was, or the heading, what subject line was, quick question, and the question was, do you want to receive 2 chapters of my book? And so we had to send them out to parts of our database. Now, do you think I could segment my database? I could work out. I knew that I had women in business and I had to find it. And normally Nicole, who works with me, and I know Nicole's on this call, normally does it. I was virtually in tears. I found it, but I didn't even know how to transport it into just an email. And I was virtually, my mind was just going crazy. I felt useless. I felt absolutely like I didn't know how to do anything or which way to do it. And we were given half an hour, and it was a morning tea break, and everyone had walked out of the room apart from me, and there was a young guy sort of hanging around, and I knew that he had a business that did this type of thing. So I just had to go up to him. I'm almost in tears, and I said, Carl, could you please help me? Because I just didn't even know where to start. And I was almost at that stage thinking of, what am I doing? What am I doing in this group? This is so hard. This is challenging. This is stuff beyond my capacity or capability. Funny story now, he sat down with me within 2 minutes. He said, you do this, and this. Within 2 minutes, it went off. Now, I just thought, my God, I could have spent a whole day trying to find out how to do that. My mindset was telling me, which is sometimes pretty accurate with tech stuff, you've got no idea how to do this. This is going to stop you. You know, maybe you shouldn't be, trying to do all this type of work at this stage of your life. You know, oh, this is a bit ridiculous. Everyone else is so much younger than you. I'd had a whole story there. So the reason that I'm bringing this story up is that it's so important to be aware of how our mind can stop us in our tracks, and it nearly stopped me. So I want to say to everyone in the room that it's so important to let go of that mindset. I went and asked for help, and I'm not a person, I find it quite hard to ask for help. So thanks, Suzanne. You got me into that, sort of saying, surround yourself with positive people, but also great teachers. And I'm now going to be working with Carl. He's going to help me automate my business even further. Hey, it's important. Why should I stay for a day? I mean, when I think of what I'm going to pay him, and the difference in my business, you don't. It's not even a question, because it's going to change my business so much. And instead of me, if I looked at my costs for a day trying to sort this out, he'd do it in 2 minutes. So it's a bit of a dumb question. So, okay, start to think about new thinking, and you can think about my story as well, that quite often if we just ask for help, we can find a way to do something so much faster. Also, avoid old habits. Get out of your comfort zone. If this is one thing that you come out of the webinar with today, it's get out of your old habits. Get out of the same way of doing things. Get out of feeling comfortable and bored. Just have that courage to move into that magic circle where the magic happens. And I know that everyone on this webinar is on my database, and you'll get a newsletter, I think, next week or the week after. And this newsletter is about magic. It's about the clients that I have that are really, I've got 3 clients that I've just put together on this webinar, in this newsletter. One who's a former CEO and chairman of companies in New Zealand, who's now found a new career path. And she's going to be extraordinary. She's going to be director of philanthropy, and she'll head up philanthropy for New Zealand. I know she has that potential. But the magic that's happened, her change has been all about mindset. It's been about turning her mind into a new career path and seeing the potential. But the magical part of herself is that she is such a creative person. She didn't realize it when she started the coaching, because she's an engineer. So, but she makes for her daughter, her 9-year-old daughter, these amazing cakes. They're Harry Potter cakes. They're the most extraordinary, beautiful, amazing, amazing. And I know the ingredients are good because I've asked her what the ingredients are. They're not just, a great design. The cakes are meant for eating. And when I looked at the photos of her daughter's party, her birthday party last year, I just thought, my gosh, what a fortunate daughter. These little girls were dressed up with Harry Potter costumes and things like that. And she was totally in the middle of it. Here's a woman that has taken herself out of her comfort zone as an engineer, a CEO, chairman of companies. And she wanted to change her life. And she went into this, I call it the magic circle, And this is what she's going to do. And for those of you who are on this webinar, this is where I'd love you to be. I love this slide. I want you to stand out. I want you to be this duck that everyone goes, wow, and looks at and has a laugh. And I know in Sydney, I think a couple of years ago I think it was part of the Sydney Festival, I think they had this gigantic duck that was floating on the harbour. And every time I saw the photograph was on Facebook, I had to laugh because it looked so good. It was exactly like that without the sunglasses, I think, floating around the Opera House, and it was floating around. It was big. It was, I think, a couple of stories high or something like that. It was really big, but it must have been moored in a certain spot, or it would have been hard for the ferries, the ferries that go back and forward to Manly, etc. So I want you to start to think about how can you stand out. And to do that, you've got to have courage. You've got to have someone to support you. You've got to have a support network to help you stand out. Because when you stand out, you become the new you. You become the person that has the potential to be able to leverage all the parts of your career and make yourself stand out. This is something my coach was talking about last week. He said it's so important for every one of us to stand out. Because why will people come to me for coaching if I don't stand out and I can actually, turn their careers around? He said it's pointless being ordinary and being, just safe. People want someone who stands out and can help them to stand out and move into a career that really has got guts and courage. So imagine you're that duck, and you're going to be that duck at the end of the webinar. You're going to stand out. You're going to put all the bits of your career together in the smartest, most effective way. So that for the rest of 2016, you're going to be a pretty special person. You're going to be a person that is in love with every part of your life. You're going to really enjoy your life. Your life is going to be a life that is full of reward, full of potential. The passion and the purpose comes back again. So to recap in this section, I just want to say to you, start to think about how you repurpose every part of yourself. And by repurposing, it's about leveraging all your bits. The part of yourself that's the child, your past achievements, whatever you've done that's excited you, and you put it together in a way that makes you laugh, makes you come alive. Because this is what this stage of our life is about. It's about finding a career path and also finding someone that can help you move along that career path so that you get there rather than trying to do it on your own, the old slow way. So the final section, let's keep going. This is about how would you start creating a vision for 2016, for the rest of 2016. Hey, we're in April now. So I'm going to challenge everyone on this call. Where do you want to be in the next 6 months' time? Because, 2016 is almost halfway through. And I'd like you just to start thinking about where do you want to be and how are you going to do this? So the way you're going to do this is to start with goals. To start changing your life around. And the first goal is about how are you going to get help? How are you going to find a way to leverage all your bits together? It's a bit like putting together a recipe, cooking, say, muffins. And you might have, a great recipe, but you've got to start just changing it a bit because you're going to leverage different parts of your career and you in different ways. The same with a recipe. You might normally make savoury muffins, perhaps cheese and bacon. But maybe this time for 2016, you need to make muffins that are sweet, that have got, say, white chocolate and raspberry, that are really delicious, and they might just at the end have some rum poured over them. So start to think of your career path now, with 2016 the end of 2016 in sight, do you want to waste another year? Do you want to look back on 2016, at the end of 2016, and go, why didn't I turn my career around? So the first thing you've got to do is look at the end of the year and then start working back. And the goals that you put together have to be goals that are really achievable. They have to be little steps, because if you're going to run a marathon, you don't run a marathon like tomorrow. You've got to put an action plan. You've got to start running short distances. You build up the distance until you can actually, so I think what's in a marathon is 42 Ks. So you might run a kilometre, the next week 2 kilometres. You build up slowly until you have the potential to be able to run a marathon. So just start thinking about the goals. And you put those goals together with an action plan. And I want to say at this stage, the action plan is no different than going away on a holiday. I was talking about this yesterday when I spoke. It's very easy for many of us to put goals and an action plan together when we're going away on a holiday. We get excited. We have a vision. We go, wow, I'm going to go, say, New York, London, Paris, etc. So I've worked out the airline I'm going to go, where I'm going to stay, the galleries I'm going to go to, the restaurants I'll probably go to, what I'm going to buy, etc. We have a whole picture. We have a whole vision together. It's exciting and it's inspiring. But hey, in our careers, quite often we forget that. Our careers stay stuck. They stay in the same place. So you imagine in your career, if you can transport or transpose the action and the vision that you have when you go away on holidays or on a holiday, how you plan it, how you put together an action plan with goals, and you do achieve them. You probably quite often on holidays, you do more. You do far more. So think, and I say this to every client of mine, if you put as much time into your action plan and your goals for your career as you do for your holiday, look at what you can achieve. And when they do that, I tell you, they roar ahead. Like, these clients really roar ahead. So just start to think about that. So what I'd like you to do, and I'd like you to type into the chat box, those of you who are interacting on the chat box, what are the first 3 steps that you're going to make to be able to start some action towards having a really fulfilling career in 2016? And time-wise, actually, I'm just thinking, even if you just write down 1 step, what's the first step you're going to take? What is the first step you're going to take that is going to be a really sustainable action towards getting the goal of having a new career path that excites and inspires you by the end of 2016? And while you're doing that, I'm just going to have another glass of water, because I know when you can hear this on the webinar, and it sounds like sort of an avalanche, I think, sometimes, just sipping the water. Okay, so I'm waiting for some comments or some, what's one of the first steps? What's one of the first steps you're going to make? Just waiting here. Just a small step, just a really, really small step. Okay, so while you're writing that down, and it doesn't know. And Annette, look, thank you. Thank you for being honest. That's actually fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you about the offer that I've got at the end, because I think that will help you with writing down your steps. And do you know what I have to say too? That this is really, it's important, for you to say that, because I really admire you putting that down. It's a hard thing to say. I'll help you at the end, and I'll talk to you about what I can offer at the end. So anyone else got any steps that they would start with? Suzanne, you're chatty. Haven't heard from you yet. So I'm just wondering, what's your first step with Madam Peg? So Suzanne is a client, or was a client of mine. So I'm just curious why she's keeping quiet. So so what's the first step that you're going to do to take your Madam Peg business, your Great Pegs, even further forward? So at this stage, when you've written down that first step, it's important to put a vision to have a picture. And I'll tell you why it's important to have a picture with this action plan. Once you have a vision and a picture of how to move forward, it's like the holiday, it becomes alive. It comes absolutely alive. You can almost feel it. You can touch it. You can see it. And this is why my clients say to me that when they put together the vision mapping program in the first session, they say that is the most valuable session for them, you know, in the whole 12-month coaching program, because it brings their vision and what they can do with their career alive. So if you think, you know, it's like going to a movie, putting on the 3D glasses. When you put those 3D glasses on, it brings the whole picture absolutely alive. It's okay, Suzanne. Oh, you've commented, decide that a change needs to be made. But you've got to be specific, Suzanne. I know you well enough. I know you well enough. You've got to be very specific. What exactly? What exactly? I'm being really tough here. Check out the changes and list them. No, you've got to be very specific. What's the first change? I want to know the first change. And you probably, and everyone else on this call, you're hearing me be very specific with Suzanne. I know her because she was a client. So so I'm challenging her because it's about getting results. And Suzanne she's got some great products, some amazing pegs that are just the most extraordinary, beautiful pegs that every household should have in Australia. So I want to know, as I move on, what's the first thing you're going to do, Suzanne? So as we move towards the end of the webinar, I want you to think about you being the change that you want to be. This is about getting help and being inspired to be the change, because we all have it within us, regardless of whether we're stuck and we don't know even how to take the first step. You've got to have someone who's done it before to help you to move ahead. Suzanne, you're very funny. I have commented. Yes, I can. You're funny. I like your comments. Thank you. So, okay, so you've got to be the change that you wish to see. It's really important because to change your career, to move ahead, and we can all do it. We absolutely can do it. And I know, you know, having coached people over 16, 17 years, the changes I see, it's extraordinary. And suddenly the life. I had an amazing email yesterday from this client of mine in New Zealand, and she just said to me, she said, Sally, she said, oh my gosh. And this is honestly true. And I was really touched. And she said, I know I've been difficult, you know, with my mindset at times. And she said, but she said, now I'm moving ahead. And this is the woman who's moving into heading up philanthropy for New Zealand. And she said, I just feel like I found my purpose. I found my passion. And she said, you know, she said, Sally, you're a star. She said, you know, and just sticking with me and helping me through this. And I thought, yes, I knew she'd get there. I knew she'd just get there. She just had to stay and understand that her mindset, and she had to encompass the person that she truly wanted to be. That was the most important part. So it's lovely when I get emails like that. So I want you in this sort of, as we move towards the end of this webinar, to be the change that you want to see. So in just sort of starting to recap, I'm just going to go into this final slide here, and then I'm going to put up the offer that, Annette, I think that will be really important for you. Just start to think about what a new job would be worth to you, financially as well. And do you want to feel excited about your work again? This is so important. And just start to think about, you know, sort of, you know, by putting an action plan, by having someone that's been on that path walking alongside with you, you can actually start to change. You can find that first step. For those of you who haven't put comments in, you can find that first step. The first step is the most important step. So, so I'm just going to put up in the chat box, I just want to find out, so what have you learnt? What have you learned in this webinar today? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put into the chat box a link for you, because as I've said, I don't know why everyone has registered for this call today, but I just want to ask everyone the following questions. You know, you can change, you can do it the slow way, you can do it the trial and error way, or you can do it from what you've heard today. You can do it the fast way. If you want to change, if you want to turn your life around, move into a new career. And firstly, what I want to say is this is not for everyone. There's no magic pill that gets results. You know what it is? It's all about committing to unsticking yourself. So in the previous slide, As I said, what's a new job worth to you? What's a great income worth to you? And what would it mean to you to wake up every morning excited to go to work? And I'm just going to get this link here that I'm going to put into the chat box. This is a link for you to book into a call. Just a sec. We just put this in. I think it's just going to, yeah. So I've just put a link into the chat box, and so the first thing I'd suggest to you is to book into a 15-minute call now. And in this call, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions to see where I can help you. If I can't, I'll send you to someone who can. And if I feel I can help you, we'll book in another session to talk about how. And I know that you'll feel inspired, and you'll feel reinvigorated again. So I just want to make sure that you've got this. Just a sec. Okay, it's just come up now, I think, yes. So if you go into that link there and book into a session, and I've got a limited number of sessions available tomorrow. And I know, if I feel I can help you, we'll book in another session to talk about how. And definitely you'll feel confident, excited, and re-inspired again. So what you need to do is to go to this link and select a time to register. And in this call, as I said, I'll work out how I can help you to see if we're a match. And if I can't, I'll send you to someone who can. So thanks, Suzanne. You said, I'm capable of anything, but you need to trust yourself. So we need to talk, Suzanne. So I'm going to open up for questions. And if anyone would like to ask me questions, I've got about 15 minutes left on the call to ask some questions. So I'm going to wait, and I know there's a delay here with the question box, but what you need to do is to either type in a question, or you can put your hand up, and I can actually bring you on live, but it just takes a little bit of time. So I'm just going to wait and see if there are any questions. Anything that I haven't made clear, or if you want to know about the session tomorrow, just type into the chat box what you would like to know, and I'll just wait for a few minutes. And I'm just curious, and yeah, I'm really liking what you've written, Suzanne, because you're one person, you're totally capable, but you've got to commit. You've got to commit as well. You've got to commit, and you've got to trust yourself. It's very important. And for everyone else on this call, it's by, the most important thing is to take part and to really put yourself out there, because if you're going to change, you can change. You are the person that really can change your career and your life. Oh, it says all the days are unavailable. Okay, Suzanne. So I just want to ask someone else. Should be there. Okay, so Annette, have you tried to get into the... I'm just going to ask Annette as well. Annette, have you tried to book into a session or not? Because I'm just going to go in, let me in a second, because there's one day that is available. So I'm just going to, let me just go somewhere else and try and find it. Not sure if I can on this call. I might be able to. It says all the days are unavailable. That is interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, please, if you can just call me. I've got time available now, and we can book in a time. I'll just put here, and I've got 4 sessions available tomorrow, so I can book you into that. 685-335. So if you want to do that, if you can call me on that number, I guess in the next 15 minutes, because I've got that time available. If you can just call me on that number, and then we'll book in the sessions. Oh, Annette. Oh, you've got it. Oh, so that's what I thought. Yes. So Annette, okay, so you've obviously booked in. Thank you. And that's so, Suzanne, they are available. they're for new clients, but I'm really happy if there's a time available. How do you commit? What makes the change happen? Oh my gosh, Suzanne, how long have we got? It's a mindset thing. You have to commit. And I'm going to be really honest, and Annette, and everyone else, this is going to be really valuable for you. Commitment is you've got to come from your gut. It's a mindset thing, and you have to absolutely stay on track. You've got to be very disciplined, and it's something you have to do every day. It's like running a marathon. You have to commit to training every day. Okay, for an hour or whatever, I'm going to train for the marathon. I'm going to do 1 kilometre in the first week. I'm going to do 2 kilometres. You have to absolutely commit. So, Annette, what's the first step in committing? Is that what you're meaning? Perhaps if you can just be a bit clear about that, because I want to be able to answer your question really precisely. What's the first step? I just need to, I know that's the only problem with this webinar portal. There is a bit of a delay between when you type in something. You might be, if you're meaning, yeah, that's right, Suzanne. Yeah, Friday the 8th of April. Yes, that's, and moving forward, okay. Friday the 8th, isn't it? Yes, Friday the 8th is the only day available. That's right, yes. I just have a very busy schedule at the moment. Okay, and moving forward. Okay, what's the first step? And the first step is the vision mapping program, and this is the one that I do in my first session. That's absolutely essential, and I'll tell you why. Because what it does is I use my own process. It's a vision mapping process, and it involves music, classical music, and then you go through a guided. So like a guided meditation, but it's a guided visualization about the first step. And then what you do is from there, you write about that, and you then tear out images from magazines and you put a collage together. So, and what this does is by using the music, and this is the Muso and me, I use a piece of Mozart. And what this does is music, as I think everyone knows, is now, I mean, all the research that's been done on music is it takes us out of the negative parts of our mindset or our brain if it's the right music, and it really helps us to look at our future and our potential. And I saw this amazing documentary on Netflix the other day. I'm a bit of a Netflix tragic at the moment. Love it. And it was on using music with dementia patients. And oh my gosh, it was the most extraordinary video. And I know this being a muso. And would you believe it, both my parents have dementia. And what they did was they played music to people who were bedridden, who weren't even speaking. They were just sleeping most of the day. So they played music. They put their music on iPods, and it was music from the time when these people were growing up. And one guy was, I think he'd loved sort of like the Louis Armstrong sort of music, that jazz music of that era. And he was quite, and they showed photos of him. He was just an extraordinary, amazing man. As soon as they put the music on, this is honestly true. If you're a Netflix person, watch it. He came alive. He started speaking. He remembered. He said, "Oh, I was in this place. I was doing this. I was doing that. It was just the most extraordinary period of my life." Now, then I think someone got that YouTube clip. It was filmed on YouTube, and they put it onto YouTube or onto Facebook, and it's had, I think, 4 million views. It's been unbelievable. So if music can do that to someone who's almost so brain dead, he started speaking. He can walk. He's walking again. It's the most unbelievable story. But I do know it because being a music as I can with music. So that's an answer to your question. It's a bit of a long-winded answer. The first session, and I'll talk to you about that tomorrow, because it seems like you've probably booked in for a session tomorrow. We do a vision mapping process, and that is extraordinary. And basically we do it on Skype because most of my clients are outside of Melbourne. So it's a fantastic session, and it's the one that really helps you to open yourself up to see your potential. So Suzanne, thank you for being on the call, Annette, and also thank you for actually for being, putting things into the chat box, because I'm not sure what happened to everyone else. And I look forward, and Suzanne, also, if there is a time tomorrow, you're very welcome, of course, to book into it. So if there's a time free at this stage. And it was lovely to have everyone on the call. And I wish you all the best too. I really wish you all the best in your careers. And I hope to see you in the sessions tomorrow. And I'm just trying to move this forward. Oh, that's why it won't go. So book your session and thank you. So yes, until tomorrow, because I know some people will be on the calls tomorrow, you have a fantastic day, and I'll be running another webinar probably in a month's time. So thank you for being on it, and thank you for taking part.